Welcome to Focused on Forward. The purpose of this podcast is to focus on recovery from life situations, be it a disease, chronic or acute, perhaps the loss of someone so dear to you in death, or a change of life patterns that has affected you so profoundly that you have no choice but to find your new normal and become focused on moving forward. Each episode is designed to show the positivity that people bring to each and every one of their stories, the successes they've had, ways that they have become so definitively focused on moving forward. We look forward to sharing their stories, and we hope that they inspire you just as much as they have inspired us. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Focused on Forward. Today, we'll be speaking with Simone Denis. Simone is a hockey player that I've known for some time. He went to the university where my wife works, and in my opinion, as an unprofessional hockey analysis, is that he's a quality defenseman. So anyway, we're looking forward to hearing Simone's story. He's got a pretty challenging story of injury and overcoming that, and how it affected him. So Simone, whenever you're ready, please take the floor, and we're excited to hear your story.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tim. It's first off, it's an absolute pleasure to be on, and I truly appreciate you inviting me onto this to allow me to share my story. So hopefully it's a good opportunity for some people to hear it, and maybe it'll help someone along the way. So with that being said, so for me, as Tim mentioned, I played hockey at Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan. It was a Division I NCAA hockey program, and I arrived in the fall of 2011 was my first year, and we had tremendous success actually going to the school's first ever Frozen Four. And then we were the first ever time for a Ferris team to actually make the national championship. Unfortunately, we did come up short in the national championship game, but an incredible experience, an incredible thing for our school at the time. And the following season, we had a little bit less success, but going into the 2013-14 season, we had really high hopes. We had just entered a brand new conference at the time, which was called the WCHA. Really good team coming into the season and very high expectations. And that's kind of, for me, where the season ended. And it was something that I never could have imagined in my life going through. What had happened was it was our fifth game of the season. We were on the road in Huntsville, Alabama, playing against the University of Alabama, Huntsville. And it would have been the second period. I still remember the puck was dumped into my corner. And as I started to skate back for it, the forechecker was right on me. And as I got to about the bottom of the circle, I felt a push down on the back of my pants from the forechecker. And what happened was that he had pushed down and I'd slipped out and I'd kind of landed in a seated position, and his weight essentially landed right on the back of my head and caused me to fold. And in doing so, caused my entire neck to give out. So at that time when that happened, I remember laying on the ice and just not moving is really what it was. And I immediately felt the pain in my neck. I had lost some feeling along the left side of my body with both my entire arm and my leg. And I remember just kind of laying there at first, like, yeah, it hurts, like something's wrong for sure. But you never ever think, to the extreme levels of it. And I remember as our trainer came out on the ice and the guys around me like, oh, like, what's wrong? Is it your leg? Is it your back? And I'm like, no, it's my neck. And like, that's when it kind of went into panic mode. And from there, I just remember being, once I, not really knowing, I guess, the severity of it, I had been taken to the locker room and immediately put into a spinal collar. And then as the ambulance arrived, I immediately was put onto the stretcher. And I was, laid back. They had worked to take off some of my hockey equipment, obviously doing their best not to move any parts of my body as they didn't know the extremity of it. And as we did so, I remember just kind of sitting there, and our trainer, Tim Glover, was kind of almost distraught and, doing his best to kind of keep me calm. I felt calm. I felt pain. Uh, but mostly it was because he knew the severity of the injury, whereas I kind of was like, oh, okay, yeah, this will, well, maybe I'll be out a week or two and I'll be okay. And from there, yeah, he didn't tell me what was going on. It's not that obviously he didn't know either, but he was like, let's just see what the doctors say. And I remember getting to the hospital, and as soon as I got there, first time I'd ever been in a neck brace and a spinal collar, and kind of like, this is weird. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, like, get into the hospital, you check in. Oh, does it hurt? Like, yeah, it hurts quite a bit. Okay, well, we're gonna give you this painkiller, this painkiller. Okay, we got to get you in for first we're gonna do an X-ray, and then we have to do an MRI. Then we got to do a CAT scan of your brain to make sure everything's okay. And that's when I kind of was like, oh, like my brain, like, no, I'm okay. Like I feel fine. And once we did the first couple of tests, it was a lot of laying in a hospital bed, waiting around. And I think the worst part of it was the fact that I was still in my sweaty hockey equipment, so that didn't feel great. But but yeah, from there it basically was waiting around, and finally I'd gone to the hospital about probably 9 p.m. And I remember it was about 5 a.m. when a doctor finally came in with some information, and it was kind of the moment, I guess, where for me where my life changed, where the doctor came in, was okay, yeah, you fractured your C5 C6 vertebrae, which is in the upper part of the neck. um, and they were sitting there, and at that time I'd started to get feeling back in my left hand and my left foot and leg. So they were kind of sitting there like, basically, the issue you're having right now is that you're having excessive tissue damage, which is causing some blood to run along in the area. And if it starts to go towards your spine and in the fractured area, we need to go into emergency surgery, or you're going to be paralyzed. And that's when everything kind of hit me, and I kind of felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. Like, oh, like, okay, this is bad. Like, this isn't just a little bump or a block shot and you come back out the next shift. This is a, like, okay. And immediately I didn't really know how to react. And I just remember the doctor saying, like, yeah, you're going to have to stay here, and immediately put me on blood thinners, everything like that. And throughout my duration at the hospital, I ended up being there for 3 days. And fortunately, the blood thinners did cause the bleeding to stop and to not go into my spine. I did leave, obviously, with a drastic number of tissue damage, and obviously my C5, C6 fracture as well. And at that time, we were able to get out of the hospital, and we were very fortunate that a Ferris supporter by the name of John Collins, who now has become an incredible friend of mine and someone who is absolutely family and another father figure in my life, was fortunate enough to come check on me in the hospital all the time. His wife as well, who was actually working as one of the nurses. He opened up his home to Tim Glover and I to allow Tim to stay, and he took us to lunch, and then he took us to the airport once we got out of the hospital. But that was my first taste of realizing that something was wrong. And over time, it was the hardship of, for me, I've been someone who's played hockey since I was 4 years old, and it's the only thing, I guess, that I had ever known. And it had led me to opportunities to move around North America, and it led me to getting a scholarship to play a Division I sport. And for me, hockey was the only thing I ever knew. And in that moment, my world was kind of shell shocked, where I was like, I can't play hockey again. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I remember getting back to Ferris a few, like, those, after I had gotten out of the hospital a couple of days later. And I remember I went to the game that following weekend, would have been about 7 days after I had been injured. And because I just wanted to be there with my team, and I didn't want to be away from hockey because, like I said, it was all that I ever knew. And I remember getting into the locker room for the first time, and our team doctor came up, and he was teary eyed, and he kind of came up and he gave me a half hug. He didn't want to squeeze me too hard because I was obviously pretty fragile, and I was kind of like, hey, Dr. Grindell, how you doing? And that's when he kind of looked at me. He goes, "You don't like, do you know how lucky you are?" I go, "Yeah, it's unfortunate, but no, I don't." Like, he's like, it's a miracle you're not paralyzed. He's like, I don't know how you're not. I've seen the imaging, everything. I don't understand how you're not paralyzed. And that's truly when I realized how drastic this injury really was. And it was, I mean,
It had to
it
be a
was one
bit
of those, holy
surreal.
cow. It was, without a doubt. It was literally one of those moments where I kind of stopped and the world stood still. And it was like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like and at the time it really still hadn't all hit me because, I was just already in a neck brace. It had been a week now of wearing the neck brace, and, starting to get used to it, not really sleeping still just because the uncomfortability of it. And, it was like, yeah, it's another injury. I'll be okay. And once I heard that, it was incredibly surreal, and it was like, oh, okay, like this is serious. Like, and I think it was one of those where everyone else knew it but me, because I was holding out hope that it was just going to be okay. And
Sure,
yeah,
that
it
it
was,
wasn't as
that
bad.
was,
It was,
yeah,
something you could bounce back
yeah,
from. You'd been injured before, no
exactly.
big deal.
Right. And, with athletes, it's always kind of like, you play through the pain kind of thing. It's like an injury is just a little bump in the road, and then you keep playing and everything like that. So to have it kind of be on a bigger scale it really was surreal.
Yeah, so I'm sure at some point in your mind you're like, yeah, give me a couple weeks, we'll be back on the ice, no big deal. We'll move along. But clearly
Hmm.
this is not that type of thing. And in my own personal observation, I think for many people, the word paralysis, or paralyzed, when they hear those
Hmm.
words, um, like I said, it becomes a very surreal situation because you don't really think of that ever applying to you until
Hmm.
it does. And then there's the quick understanding of what those words mean and how it can affect
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah, exactly. And I, after, I guess, I learned about that, I did some research to try to, like, why would this have paralyzed me? Why would this have harmed me? And as I started to read up, essentially it's your C4 vertebrae in your spine is basically a guarantee that you will be paralyzed. And, with a human body, that's, within, I mean, gosh, barely even millimeters. That's the tiniest little sliver between your C4 and your C5. And to have it, basically, the injury had started at the top of my C5, and then it had come through and down into the middle area between my C5 and C6. And that's when I started reading up, like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that's like, I can feel everything still. Like, yeah, I have to wear a neck brace and I have to go through this, but like I can, I can live my life still in that way. And that's when, talking to um, my parents and talking to my brother and my friends at the time, and like, everybody, I felt like at the beginning was more shell shocked than me, just because, like I was saying, I didn't understand what was going on. It was really surreal. And you know my mom, like, I remember one of the first couple weeks, like when I talked to both my mom and dad, was like, hey, like, if the decision to play hockey is all yours. It's, like, don't worry about this, like, you get to live your life still. And that's when I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, what do you mean? Like, because I guess it just took me a very long time to kind of grasp the whole concept of everything.
Well, yeah, serious injury, I think, for many people becomes a more difficult topic to grasp onto, especially if you've never really had a serious injury in the previously. I think
Hmm.
it I think it becomes a very um, difficult thing to wrap our minds around, because if you've always been healthy, or if you've been injured and you're able to bounce back quickly, um, then, without something lingering, um, to have something that basically shuts you down complete, in order for the body to restore itself, I think can be a very, not only trying physically, but also mentally and emotionally.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, without a doubt, it was. The mental side is what ended up taking a drastic toll over time, and um, my personality has always been a very positive, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and at the time, I did everything I could to try to continue to be that way, and I think I know I did a good job of making it appear that way to everyone. Um, but internally, I definitely had a lot of struggle that I never really wanted anyone to know, and I didn't want to show it, kind of thing. And going through that and trying to continually be positive and continually have a smile on my face no matter what was difficult, without a doubt. But I definitely made it seem like it was all okay, even though, yeah, mentally and internally it definitely wasn't.
Okay, so now we've gone through the injury. We're at a point now where the body's trying to heal itself. So paint us a picture of what the road to recovery looked like.
Yeah, so it was over time, it would have been about 3 weeks after the injury was the first time I had spoken with our team staff and our team doctors and everyone that informed me that we were going to go see an orthopedic surgeon. And we went down to an orthopedic surgery clinic in Michigan, down in Grand Rapids. And the clinic, actually, the doctor that I began speaking with, he had actually helped work on the same neck surgery with Peyton Manning, who had actually a very, very similar surgery, and went on to the point where he not only did he recover, but he went on to go win a Super Bowl with the Broncos after that. And immediately upon talking to him the first time, and they had seen the severity of the injury, but for doctors like that, it's nothing that they haven't seen before. So immediately getting a chance to talk to him, and kind of getting an understanding of, hey, like, this is what we can do. um you don't have to give up your dream of continuing to play hockey. We can work to fix this, and over time, if everything heals the way we hope it will, um we can continue to get you back onto the path of living your dream. And that was kind of the first time where I kind of felt that positivity. And in 3 weeks after I had gotten hurt, to kind of hear anything little, and at that time I still felt very shell shocked, to the point where I didn't know if I wanted to play or not, because it had kind of hit me so hard. It was more just like, okay, well, let's get the surgery to heal this at least, and then we can kind of go from there. So when I was informed of that, that would have been, yeah, 3 weeks after I got hurt. The issue was that I still had very drastic swelling in my neck. It was actually so bad, even on the MRI, that the original one, they couldn't even see the imaging, and they had to do a second one to go deeper in. So they basically informed me that it would have to be at least another month or so before I was going to be able to go into surgery. I had to routinely go back and do MRIs to see the swelling. And so in that time frame, basically, I'd gotten injured November 1st, and I had surgery. I had the procedure done January 2nd of, it would have been 2014. Um, so at that time, in those 2 months, I did a lot of relaxing. I did a lot of watching the guys play. I actually ended up getting to the point where about 2 weeks before my surgery, I was actually able to ride the exercise bike, do some, no weights or anything like that, but little slight movements were okay, because the body was slowly naturally healing itself. But to have that opportunity to ever live a normal life and play a sport, let alone ride a bicycle, anything like that, was that I was going to need the surgery. So I did get the operation done, like I said, January 2nd. Excuse me. And when I did so, they put a plate and two screws. And what they do is to do the spinal fusion, they take a cadaver bone and they place it between the C5 and C6 as a fusion. So what it does is the plate and the two screws will stay actually in my neck forever, but the cadaver bone fuses itself naturally to the C5 and C6 to take that fracture. So now the way my neck works is that my C5 and C6 is actually one long vertebrae, and then my C7, 8, and such continue down as singular ones. So upon doing so, basically the surgery, not only does it fix it, but it actually strengthens my neck. So my neck, like those vertebrae, are now stronger than any other of the ones in my body. And after I had the surgery, I was in the hospital for another 2 days, just kind of doing a little bit of recovery. What they do is I don't want to be too graphic, but they go through the front, and then they kind of push everything to the side within your voice box, everything like that. And then they do the operation, they close it back up. So for the first day, I could barely talk whatsoever. I couldn't eat anything, barely could not really drink anything. Any food that they try to feed me, it had to be Jello or something, pudding, something very, very simple and liquidy. So I did that. And then once I was able to return back to Big Rapids, fortunately, my mother had actually flown out to be there with me for the surgery and to help out for that first week. And once I got back to Ferris, that was kind of the point where it was like, okay, time to recover. And I'd set out the goal for me at least, the goal was just, to be able to skate again. I want to show myself I can do it and find that determination to, get back on the ice. And whether it was going to be playing hockey or not, I didn't know still, mentally, but I knew that I wanted to get back on the ice and push as hard as I could to get to my point where I knew I could at least do that. And so over the next, basically 3 months, was a lot of physical therapy, a lot of treatment, a lot of everything. It started with extremely minimal movements, like, okay, we're going to take the neck brace off today and you're going to move, a quarter of an inch to the left. Okay, you're going to move a quarter inch to the right. So I kind of had to re-teach myself how to move my head. And it's funny. You never really, I guess I took my neck for granted. I never really realized how much you use it until I went through the whole injury with that. And I remember it would have been right around, I think it was about February 11th or 12th. It would have been about 6 weeks post-surgery. I finally got to take my neck brace off, which ended up being a total of about 3.5, close to 4 months of continuously wearing a neck brace, 24/7, sleeping, everything. The only time I ever could take it off was when I showered. But when I did shower, I had to basically make sure basically don't move. Don't move your head. Try not to move your neck. Be very minimal. Yeah, be very, very minimal with it so you don't aggravate anything whatsoever. So I still remember that day I got that off. The relief to not have to wear it was, oh gosh, it was, I was just so happy to finally, not have to wear it. And that was the first step. And from there it was, continual rehab still. At rehab, it was very, very lightweight stuff, riding the bike, everything like that. And eventually I did reach my goal. I would have got to skate. It was, I believe it was the third week of March. So it would have been about close to 6 months, close to 5 months after I'd gotten injured, that I was able to lace up the skates for the first time again and just by myself, just kind of go around in a few minutes. And I'll never forget that moment because I truly felt like I had reached the first of my goals and that I had done it, kind of thing. And, I definitely felt a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment there. But from there, that's when I made the decision that I did want to do everything I could to try and play again. And, the next 5-6 months again after that were extremely grueling because I had lost majority of my muscle mass. everything, conditioning, muscle, even my mental side of things. I had to work on everything to get back to a point where I felt like I could play hockey. And that whole summer working with Dave Sensor, who was the strength and conditioning coach at Ferris, I stayed there the whole summer, and we worked every single day to try to get me to that point where I could play. And I finally ended up getting cleared for contact to be able to actually play the normal game of hockey as opposed to just skate around by myself. It would have been right around the end of September. So about 10 and a half, close to 11 months, or actually right around 11 months after I had sustained my injury, I was finally cleared, and I was cleared to play in our first game of the season that following year. And it's a day I'll never forget.
Yeah, I remember you coming back for that. I'm being a season ticket holder at Ferris. My wife and I have been season ticket holders for 10 years now, I think.
Okay.
And I remember you coming back, and the reception you got from the crowd was awesome. It was a sold out night. I remember that.
Yep.
But so that was really cool from a fan's perspective, for myself to be able to watch you, from and having some loose association with you. I ran into you once or twice while you were injured, and chatted with you for a couple moments, but I think from a fan's perspective, to be able to see you come back from that, it's a cool thing. But I don't think that the fans really understand what a player has to do in order to get themselves back into hockey condition, because there are muscle groups that are used by hockey that aren't used by other sports. And there's conditioning and strength, that you have to do to get yourself back in. So, thinking about that had to be a pretty challenging portion of your recovery, was just being able to get yourself back into hockey condition, I would assume.
Yeah, without a doubt. It was like I was saying, it was a lot of work with Dave Sensor and a couple of the other guys that had stayed there for the summer to train. And it started out slow, and it's frustrating, being around your teammates who are working so hard every day, and putting up good weight in the weight room, and being able to skate around on the ice and ripping around, whereas I'm like, oh, I'm so far behind now. But through determination and through continuous support from the guys, and from Dave and from everyone else, all my friends and family, I wanted to do it for everyone. It became a thing where it wasn't just for me. It was I wanted to do it for everyone that had supported me and helped me out through my process of my injury. And it was kind of one of those things where it was like, this was for everyone. And yeah, getting my body back to that point took a lot of work, a lot of hours in the weight room, in rehab, in treatment with Tim Glover, and everything to get to that point of playing that first game again. And I'll never forget it. Like you said, it was a sold out crowd. We were playing against the University of Michigan, and it was at our rink, and it was the loudest I've ever seen, or one of the loudest times I've ever seen the rink there. And I was so nervous. Like, it was because, the last time I had been in a game, I'd been taken off by a stretcher, and it was a miracle that I didn't lose feeling in half of my body. So it was extremely nerve wracking, but and we won, and I'll never ever forget that day.
I bet. So let's talk about the emotional, mental side of things for just a moment. Going through this, you kind of highlighted some of your feelings moving through, but on the road to recovery, there's lots of different little hurdles and challenges that people have to go through. What was something that helped you to continue to move and continue to focus on forward? What was something that helped you mentally, emotionally, was it spiritually, whatever it was? What was that one thing that you say that you can look at and you say, this is what helped me?
Yeah, I tried to take a lot of determination and find comfort in other people's stories. And I've listened to a few of the ones even on your podcast, and these people I find a lot of the individuals who go through traumatic things find confidence and and understanding through other people's stories. And I actually, part of mine was doing that. Whether it was through friends of mine that had been through injuries and fighting their ways back from that, or from family members. My father had Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was when I was 7 years old, and he battled his way through that, and he continues to live a great life. And going through stories like that and having the support system, like I said, it was a thing where mentally I wanted to do it for everyone, not just for myself. And obviously, it was a big thing for me, but at the same time, it was mentally, it was like I wanted to do it for everyone that had supported me, that had helped me. The littlest things. I mean, at the beginning, I couldn't even get out of bed, so my roommates were bringing me meals. Guys would just come and sit in the room with me in my bedroom and watch TV with me for a bit, just because I couldn't leave. I was lonely. Like, I had so many people just kind of supporting me. And another one, like I was saying, taking it from other people's stories. I saw it originally on ESPN on a E60. It was a hockey player named Travis Roy, and his story is one now more than ever that that resonates with me so very much. But his story was that he was a freshman at Boston University in the 80s, and his first ever college game. His dream was to play college hockey.
Oh, I remember
And
this.
yeah, so I remember seeing it a couple of years before I had gotten injured, and I remembered after I was injured that I went back and watched it again, and it was his first ever game, or second ever, maybe it was his first ever home game, and his first ever shift. He went down, tried to hit a guy, and he kind of awkwardly slipped, and he went into the boards. And immediately, as he was laying on the ice, and I remember his dad had come onto the ice to see if he was okay as well, along with the medical staff, and he knew immediately he had zero feeling in his body, and he had told his dad, like, this is it, hockey wise, like, it's over, like, I made my dream. And hearing his story of how he had the exact same injury as me, but it was his C4, C5. He was paralyzed from the neck down. And hearing his whole story of how he had reached his dream, and how it was cut short, and he's gone on to do absolutely incredible things in life with his foundation, helping people who go through the same kind of injuries, and through sports that aren't able to recover, with medical bills, and helping them with funding, creating camps for them. Like, he's done so many truly incredible things.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
that was a story. Yeah, that was a story that I remember the first time that I watched it after I had gotten injured. I sat there. I remember I watched it in my bedroom by myself, and I just bawled my eyes out, because it was like, wow, like that you get those thoughts where it's like, that could have been me, but like, that should have been me. Like,
Right.
why was it
Yeah.
not me? And seeing that story, and seeing all the amazing things he's done while even going through something negative like that, it pushed me to want to even do it more, because I got that second opportunity. And actually, completely crazy, but I actually got to meet him. It would have been last summer or 2 summers ago. Actually, I met him. I was in Boston with my now fiance, and we were walking through a shopping mall, and I saw a gentleman in a wheelchair, and he was he had the power wheelchair, the electric wheelchair, and he was rolling by, and I kind of like was looking. I'm like, I know that guy. Like, how do I know this guy? And it clicked on me, and we were just walking through the mall, and I was like, I gotta go say hi. Like, I was like, I need to say something. Like, so I ran back, and I stopped him, and I just kind of said hi to him just for a minute, and I just kind of thanked him for being such an inspiration. I didn't really tell him my whole story, but I just wanted to at least thank him. And that was the last time I can ever remember being as nervous as I ever was. I was shaking, my palms were sweating. For me, it was like I was starstruck, but that was, an incredible inspiration, and someone that I took a lot from. And And I definitely recommend for anyone who hasn't seen that video, it's his name is Travis Roy. I think if you just search like Travis Roy E60 on YouTube, you should be able to find it. So I think it's about a 10-minute video, but
Yeah.
it's a very inspiring video that that truly helped me a lot.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. It's cool that you had an opportunity to meet him. What a chance meeting, right? That's
Yeah, God, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just, I knew he lived in Boston, but just, yeah, rolling,
right. That big of a city, tracking
literally we were
somebody
walking
down.
through a mall. Yeah, just literally the most random meeting, but it was one of those full circle moments for me where we're finally getting to meet him while I was back in playing hockey again. I was starstruck, and it was an incredible moment for me.
Awesome. So yeah, we've gotten to a point now where you're recovered. You're playing hockey again. Tell people a little bit about your life post Ferris State, so they understand where you're at, what you're doing now, and how you're feeling with things.
Yeah, so after I graduated from Ferris State, actually, so originally what happened was from the year I was injured, I was granted a medical red shirt by the NCAA, which allowed me an extra year of eligibility. So at the time when I had gotten hurt, it was my junior year. So I was able to come back the following year, complete a second junior year. And I was actually also able to complete my degree in that fourth year. And I came back again for the fifth year to play um, my super, quote unquote, super senior season, and finish out and earn another minor and certificate in my time at Ferris. And after doing so, I guess I reached my dream of signing professionally. And my first season professionally, I played with the Toledo Walleye, which is the ECHL team, the Tier 2 minor league team of the Detroit Red Wings. And I was very fortunate to have an extremely successful season. I broke a franchise record, finishing with a record of plus 40, which is for every time you're on the ice for a even strength goal, you get a plus. If you're on for an even strength goal against, you get a minus. So I actually broke the record for plus 40, and I broke the rookie record, scoring 55 points in 70 games, which was, more than the whole season. Everything was more than I could have ever done in my wildest dreams. And the following year, I guess I was rewarded with an opportunity. I was invited to the Detroit Red Wings main camp, and going through the process of being in Traverse City with the team, and then heading to Detroit and being with the team for about 3 weeks overall. And it was, an incredible learning experience, and very humbling, but also to be around, all those NHL stars, and, sitting, having lunch with players like Henrik Zetterberg and Trevor Daley, and, Mike Green was my D partner for one of the games. It was a whirlwind experience, but it was something that I was very proud of, and something I truly felt like I earned after everything. And so my second season professionally, I had an opportunity while playing in Toledo to get called up to the American Hockey League, which is the step below the NHL, to the Hartford Wolfpack, which is the minor league team for the New York Rangers. Spent about a month there. It was once again a great opportunity, and something I was very proud of, and I truly enjoyed. And after finishing out the playoffs and whatnot back in Toledo, I decided to go overseas with my hockey experience. So for me, I'm very fortunate. I'm half Japanese, half Canadian. So when I was born, my mother and father, my parents got my Japanese passport. So I carry both, which allowed me an opportunity to play in this league here in Asia, actually. So I decided to go, and I earned a contract in South Korea. So I played the previous season in South Korea. And then after that season was over, within the same league, I decided to kind of follow my roots, and I signed it with a team here in Japan. And the Tohoku Free Blades is our team name. And I had signed a 3-year contract, and I'm now in the second year of my 3 years. And my fiance and I, we actually just got back to Japan about 2 weeks ago. So I'm actually doing this call from Hachinohe, Japan. And yeah, I'm in the second of my 3-year deal. And I had an opportunity one that I'm extremely proud of, which was a dream come true for me, is I'm actually now part of the Japanese national team, the Japanese national men's ice hockey team. So I'll be playing, well, obviously, hopefully with COVID, it all happens, but I'll be able to participate next summer in the World Championships with Team Japan. And yeah, it's opened opportunities and doors that I never thought it would.
That's an
And
amazing
it's been
privilege.
an incredible journey. It really is. Yeah, it's a big pride thing for my family and I. And I've always been extremely proud of my Japanese heritage. And my brother and I spent years as kids living in Tokyo in the summers when we were off school and everything like that. So we've always, and my mom's entire family lives out here still. So getting to spend more time with my extended family on my mother's side out here has been an absolute blessing. And to be able to wear that sweater and be a part of the national team of Team Japan, it definitely, I know it brings a lot of pride to my family, and it's something I'm extremely proud of.
As well, you should be. That's an awesome privilege. So excellent. So things are definitely looking up for you there,
Mm-hmm.
and things have gone well for you. So that's always good news to hear, that there's not only just a full recovery, but that there's, it's nice to see how life progresses after a point of
Mm-hmm.
recovery.
Yeah,
So
it was definitely a lot. It was yeah, it was, it went from the points of questioning whether I wanted to play again, because you know, it was the only thing I ever knew, and to be able to make that decision, and obviously it's worked out better than I could have ever imagined with my wildest dreams. And it's, I'm very fortunate to have that. But I guess the injury also taught me that at the end of the day, that hockey is not everything. You have a life as well, and it's something that I'm very grateful.
excellent. So one of the questions I like to ask every one of my guests is looking back over your entire experience, and not to break it down to one sentence or one thing, but what was your one shining star, your one piece of information that you learned that was your takeaway from this whole injury and recovery scenario?
Yeah, it was that for me, it was that, that not to fixate on one thing in your life. So I know for a lot of people, whether that's work, or whatever the case, for me, it was that, hockey was the only thing I ever knew. And this injury kind of took me to a place where, like, hockey's not everything, whether at the time I couldn't ever imagine giving up the sport. But as I've progressed through life and through the injury, the recovery, and as I've gone on with my life, like I know I'm going to be okay when hockey's over. And now it's more every single day that I get to play the game is, I'm just lucky, because it could have easily been taken away from me, but to have that opportunity to keep going. And now it's whenever I do decide to retire from the game of hockey and stop playing, I'm going to be okay with it, kind of thing. So for me, it was that, and understanding my mental health. Since then, I've learned, and I've been a big advocate of mental health, and I've kind of always been that individual to speak and to help others, and by listening to one another about their problems. But I've kind of never been the one to accept and speak out about my own issues. And I think throughout the injury, and it's taken me a lot of years for sure. But I know for a fact it does stem from my original experience of the injury and the recovery and everything. But to know that you don't have to be that positive individual every day. I know I was just listening to, like I was saying, to one of your old podcasts with Joshua, and it's knowing that, like you guys were saying, it's knowing that everyone's going to have bad days, but knowing that the next day when you wake up, whether it's raining or the sun's shining, it's a new day and it's a new opportunity to move forward. And that's something I've definitely learned, that, it's not always going to be positive. Life isn't always going to be great, but it's just a little bump in the road in the big picture, and that to keep on going. And things are going to start on a new day, and things are always going to look up in the end.
Well, yeah, and now this kind of leads us right into one of the things that one of the projects you're working with, um, and dealing with that side of the mental health and looking at things positively. Do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I've been part of a group now that's the group actually itself is just a little over a year, or actually right around a year old. And I've been a part of it since the beginning. It's called Guy Talk. Guy Talk Co is the official name, but with Guy Talk, it's a platform that's been created by individuals who are at their lowest points and wanted to create a difference. And the stigma amongst men is always, you have to be macho. You always got to be a tough guy kind of thing. It's like, no, men don't have mental health issues. It's just, you keep on going with your day. All right, I'm having a bad day. Okay, I'm just going to go to the gym and work out and I'll be fine. Or, okay, I'm just going to go play video games, have a beer, whatever the case. But it's a platform an open basically an open message board to communicate with different men all across the United States. And now, obviously, with me being across the world now, there's actually a couple of us in Asia as well. And it's a platform that's been created. Now there's 125 members, where we have conversations, whether it's about mental health. There's many members who talk about struggles they have while they're raising their children. People talk about struggles they have with their wives or with their in-laws. It's a platform where guys can just be themselves in an ego-free zone, a judgment-free zone. And, it's an opportunity to just talk. And I've had a tremendous experience with it so far. And it's really allowed me to open up and talk about the way I feel and, express my issues and my struggles as well. And never feel like you're being judged or kind of looked down on or perceived a different way than the person that you are, because it's just a lot of guys who are there, right, who also have that same issue and that are going through life. And it really is, to me, it's a brotherhood. It's a family environment. We do all sorts of different things. From Monday, you try to write down a couple things that you want to do this week, whether it's, all right, this week I want to eat healthy. I want to work out 3 times at least. Guys do that. On Friday, we celebrate Friday wins. Guys can kind of go on there and humble brag about positive things they did in the week, whatever they may be. And on top of that, it's a platform where there's individuals of, I mean, gosh, I think the youngest member on Guy Talk, I believe, is 21 or 20. And I want to say the oldest member is about 62. So there's zero judgment whatsoever from anyone. There's individuals. It's started out of Austin, Texas, but there's individuals literally of the 125 all over, from California to Boston to Florida to Washington, literally all around the coast. And now there's myself in Japan, another member in South Korea. And it's just been it's something for the men out there that are ever curious, want to learn more about it. You can visit the Guy Talk page on Instagram, or the website is guytalk.co. But yeah, it's a platform that's been that's leaps and bounds beyond what I ever expected out of it. And being a part of the original kind of group that joined, I've had a big impact on I guess not so much the business side, but the background of it, of helping it grow and continuing to make this the best platform that we can have for individuals. And, just in the last couple of weeks, we've increased or we've, started new things. We began workshops. So there's monthly workshops. The first one was with a mental health expert, a therapist. He came on and talked for an hour, basically, with whoever the members wanted to come listen. The Guy Talk, where with COVID, it's kind of been halted a little bit, but the guys are doing Guy Talk retreats back in the States. So they're doing monthly workouts online, everything like that. So it's just been an incredible platform that's really opened my eyes even more to mental health, and I feel like it's helped a lot of guys. So if there's anyone interested, I truly recommend checking it out.
Oh, it sounds fantastic, and I'll be checking it out myself. And I'll make sure that when we post your episode, that there'll be a link to Guy Talk posted in the show notes there for everyone else to take a look at. But I think that's an amazing opportunity. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for letting me.
And then also, one more question for you tonight before we let you go. And I say tonight because it's morning here in the United States. It's evening in Japan where he's at. So one more for the night before we let him go. What's your one piece of parting advice that you would give to anybody listening, based on your experience and what you've learned?
Whew. I'm gonna have to go with never never take life too seriously. That's one thing I learned. You never want to miss the opportunities for life. Whether it's work or your career, your family, of course, always does come first in the end. But whether it's whatever the case, there's always a reason to have an excuse. But I feel like to go out and go for it always is the right move in the end, because whether you succeed or not, you can always say you did it. And just continuously live life with a positive approach. There's been a lot of negativity in the world, the United States, Canada. I mean, everywhere. Everywhere has had a lot of negativity with COVID. There's there's everything right now. I guess there's a lot of the lives, Black Lives Movement, the election, everything like that. Just kind of take time for yourself and put a positive spin on things. And COVID's not going to end the world. The world is going to continue. It's going to, sooner or later, we're going to get back to that normal life. And, just put a smile on your face, spread the love to individuals wherever you are, reach out to an old friend, whatever the case. Just, that's, I guess for me, it's kind of all over the place, but it all kind of resorts back to having that positive mentality and just kind of living life to the fullest and having a smile on your face while you do it.
Excellent. Well, I think that's great advice. It's one of the things I live by. You can't take life too seriously. It's going to kill you in the end anyway. So
that's very true.
Well, Simone, thank you so much for being a guest today. We really appreciate your insights, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Absolutely, Tim. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and I look forward to listening to future episodes.
All right, excellent. All right, guys. Well, that's going to conclude us today. Thank you for listening to Focused on Forward. Bye-bye.
Well, that concludes another episode of Focused on Forward. To be a guest of Focused on Forward, you can reach us through Twitter at podcastfof, through our Facebook page named Focused on Forward, or through email focusedonforward@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing each and every one of your stories that has yet to be told. So until then, be safe, be kind, and be loving to one another as you stay focused on forward.